Joined here today by head coach of Woodbury High School, Andy Hill. Coach, introduce yourself to our audience and go ahead with your presentation.
All right. Well, my name is Andy Hill, and I just finished my 9th season at Woodbury High School. Before I was at Woodbury, I was out in the state of Virginia, where I coached at Parkview High School for 5 years and then South Lakes High School for 1 year. I was planning to be there for a long time until the Woodbury job opened up, and I just gotten married, and so having a family and wanted to be able to own a house, that type of thing, moving back to Minnesota made some sense. So thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. So, Coach, you talked to us a little bit about your spread offense today.
Yeah, so I was just going to go over the first of 3 presentations I did in Des Moines at the Glazier Clinic this year. And this one's just basically how we build spread offense, and then I've got some examples of what we try to do out of it. The Glazier presentation was a 4-hour deal, so I don't want to bore everybody to death for 4 hours. So I think this will probably take about 45 minutes to an hour. So does that work?
Yep, that works great.
All right, so you guys can see the screen.
Yep.
We'll just kind of click through here. My email's at the bottom of the screen, and so if anybody's got any questions, feel free to email me. And that's been one of the cooler things about I got to speak in Des Moines and in Las Vegas, and so I got to meet people from kind of all around the country, and I've had some dialogue, and it's been pretty cool to even see and hear what other people do. I asked them to actually email me some ideas of the cool things that they do, because I'm always looking to try to help our program too. So. Okay, let's just get into it here. I always introduce our school because, especially when you're speaking not in Minnesota, people don't know who you are, what you are. And we've got about 1,900 kids at our school. We've been pretty consistent with our numbers. We haven't seen a drop like you hear about in the media. And I think we do some things in our program and trying to make it fun and exciting. We play our 9th and 10th grade games in our stadium at night under the lights with the concession stands. And if I'm not announcing, we'll have an announcer on the scoreboard, and we try to make it exciting so those kids want to stay in the program. But probably the biggest news in our program is Woodbury's been around for about 45 years, and we won a state championship in 1998, but we've never been outright conference champions until 2018. And we were in 2018, and we repeated last year in 2019. So we're excited about that. We're hoping that's kind of going to build some momentum as we move into the 2020s. This is just me. I kind of mentioned some of these things. With my family, I wrote a couple books. They're not bestsellers, so it was more so me trying to get information to the parents in our youth organization that I thought if I'm going to put all this together, I can make it so they can come back and get it year after year. Or the recruiting handbook, I think, has been really pretty strong for helping people, especially with this whole coronavirus thing going around and college coaches not being able to come out. I think it's a helpful tool for families to know what they're trying to do. All right. I always hit on this too about why we coach. The picture on the left is after we secured our 2nd straight conference championship. Kids are excited. I know it's fun, and I know they play the game to win. And sometimes we can kind of get caught up in that as coaches. But the picture on the right is one of the first basketball games of the year. The little kid on the left is my 6-year-old son, Noah, and he's holding the hand of my senior captain. And we lost in the first round of the playoffs this year, and it was really, really tough to get over. Not so much because we lost, but we had a great senior class. We love those kids. They love coming to practice. They're the group that you really love to coach. They challenge you to be better every day. And we had designs on making it all the way to US Bank Stadium. And we were a 3 seed, easily could have been a 1 seed. And I don't know if we don't think that we took our opponent lightly, but we came on, we just played average and we lost. I think it was 21-17, and that's how quick it ends. And so the picture on the left, you think is what it's all about. And a month after we lost, I go to the game. I can't find my kid. He's pretty comfortable at the school, and he's running around. And after about 10 minutes at this basketball game of not being able to find him, I thought, I should go look for him. And lo and behold, there he is standing holding one of my players' hands. And it's just, that's really why we coach, to build young men. And it's a buzzword in coaching today. I think a lot of coaches say it, but they don't mean it. And I've even gotten away from it at times. But this was kind of a big reminder to me that, we are making an impact, even if we're not playing in US Bank Stadium. All right, so just to dive right into it with our spread offense, this is kind of what we have come down to is what are we really trying to get out of what we do. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but back in the early 2000s, Woodbury went to the double wing, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and the program got down to 38 kids, grades 9 through 12, playing football. And obviously that's not what we want. And then Coach Laborde came in, and he kind of built the program back up. And then I came in starting in the fall of 2011, And when I was out east, we kind of developed this idea of having a spread offense simply because we wanted to make defenses have to defend the entire field. You know, we had a couple of really good players, and I'm just of the belief that if you've got an outstanding player, he's only going to be made better if you've got other weapons on the field with him, if that makes some sense. So I could have a running back and give him 35 carries and he'll run for 185 yards. I think if you make everybody else around him better, he can have 18 carries and still run for 185 yards, but maybe he'll run for 235 yards because now, you know, the defense has to defend the entire field rather than focusing on one guy. That leads you right into the second point here, which is we want to have the kids who can do something with the football touch the football. And so the last couple of years, we haven't been great at throwing the ball, so we've been more of a spread to run team with our running back and our quarterback getting a number of carries. But you'll see 2 or 3 of our receivers touch the ball 5 to 8 times a game, whether it's on a jet sweep when we bring them in motion, whether it's a screen, whether it's quick game, because, again, we want to keep them having to defend the entire field, and we think our kids can do something with the ball when we get it in their hands. For us, balance is not 50-50. We don't need to be half run, half pass. Like I said, the last couple of years, we've been a heavier run team, but we get balanced by a couple of things. One, we want to be able to throw it when we can throw it, and be able to run it when we need to run it. And then by spreading it out, that also gives us the balance that we're looking for. In our film review, we try to look at, and my wide receivers coach always says we want to, quote, club the baby seal. And he got that from a clinic somewhere. But I'm an animal lover, so I don't want to beat a seal to death. But his idea is we're going to find the player who looks like he's out of position. He's missed, or we'll track personnel for 3 or 4 games leading up. And if all of a sudden the game right before ours, we see a different kid playing, we want to take a close look. Now, maybe he's a better player who's been coming back from injury or been suspended, who's back. But most of the time, it's usually that there's been an injury at the end of the last game. And so you've got a new kid on the field. So we want to make sure that we know that so we can take advantage of it. We don't go no huddle. Again, I think Oregon is a phenomenal football program. I think a lot of high schools have tried to emulate that, them in Auburn. And we fell into that mindset too for about, 2 months in the summer, I think 3 years ago. And it just got to the point where it wasn't helping us. We were moving too fast. We weren't being very disciplined. We weren't being very exact in our execution. And we thought, you know what, to just go fast for the purpose of going fast isn't going to help. So instead, we jump in and out of tempo. So we may huddle up for 2 plays and then go 3 plays where we call it on the line. We might get up and freeze and then signal a play in from the sideline. So and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but we wanted to get to tempo where we were the ones who controlled it rather than feeling like we had to, just go or be slow. We kind of want to vary it up. And about the last 5 years, we've had some pretty talented quarterbacks as far as their mental game. They're good athletes who know what to do. They know how to process their reads. And what this really does is it keeps us from having a terrible play. We still have bad plays. We still have got turnovers like everybody else. But, if we're supposed to run stretch right, there are 7 defenders to our right. We've got a built-in read for our quarterback to be able to get us out of that play without having it make too much of a change to everybody on the field. So I'll show you some of those when we get into the film clips. When I gave this presentation, like I said, it was the first of 3 parts, and we want to spend this part time on how do we build it. So here's what it looks like for us as we kind of get through the off season with our coaching staff. Our banquet is normally the first weekend in December on a Sunday. And so when that leaves, I actually don't have any problem with coaches taking time off. A number of my coaches coach basketball. I coach girls basketball this year, but trust me, that was a 1-year deal. And I'm done. But, this is just kind of a time for them to get in and feel, or see how they feel about how the year went. What did they like? What didn't we like? I'm sure you guys are the same way. You find that all of a sudden you've got, 3 plays you worked on a ton in practice and you ran it once all season long. So we got to come back and say, hey, is that something we need to keep or we need to let go? Take a quick time out here just for there. They're like lions. Anyway, we also like to take a look at what's going on in our weight program. We think that we make a lot of progress in January and February. We open it up for kids to start in December if they want to, but we don't start taking attendance until January and February. We reward attendance. If kids come to 85% of their workouts, they're guaranteed to make the dress list for the varsity in the fall. And we do some individual stuff as well. So come the end of February, we've got a pretty good idea. I'll have a big staff meeting in February, and we'll kind of talk about, where we're at, where we're going. I also do my parent meetings at the end of February. I do a rising ninth grader meeting, and I do a state of the program meeting. So we kind of want to have an idea as to what we're thinking about for our offense by that point in time. And we're already in this process here in March of trying to put together our playbook for this next year. And Ivy, lay down. Good girl. Lay down. And it changes from year to year. We've got our core tenets, but I'm not a huge believer, especially at the high school level where we don't get to go recruit the kids we want to have in our program, that you need to make sure that your offense matches the talent and the kids that you have. Asking kids who are great runners to throw the ball 40 times, I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's good for the program. And so I know that there's some coaches who've got great systems, and I guess our system would be we kind of stick to the principles, and then we adjust our plays based on what we have. And we'll try to get the playbook put together. Also, the time where normally we're coming back from a lot of clinics. A few of the ones we're going to go to this year have been canceled amidst this sickness thing. So we got guys watching clinics on websites, probably like what you guys are putting up. In May, we'll finalize the playbook. In Minnesota, we're allowed to connect with our kids starting on June 1st at midnight. We like to get guys together and distribute our playbook. We'll set up at the school. Now, I don't know if this will happen this year or not. We probably have about 2/3 of our kids come through and pick it up. It's exciting, kind of builds some momentum heading into the summer. Team camp in July. I know a lot of schools do it in June because they want to get out to South Dakota State or Augustana or some of these college team camps, and that's a legitimate reason. For me, I do it in July because I want it to be as close to the start of our season as possible. So we do it at the end of July. The idea is that we hope that kids will retain what we do. Last year, I think we had 113 kids in our summer team camp, and we had 126 come out for football. So that lets us really hit the ground running. Some of our base formations, our base run, our base quick game pass is installed, and then we just kind of build on prior knowledge when we start football, the real season in August. So that's the hope for July. Picture on the right is we have a big cookout at the end, and we do hold our camp at night. We do it under the lights. We try to not conflict with baseball too much, but we're flexible. There's no penalty if a kid has to miss a night, but it's just fun. I think so many times these kids only get a certain number of days under the lights in the stadium that we try to make that be part of what we do. All right, so when it comes to us putting together the playbook, we need to look at who we think we've got coming back. Every year, like a lot of schools, we'll have some kid show up, and then we'll have a kid decide not to play, or a kid will come out and we think that he's more advanced than he is. And so when we get going in team camp, maybe he's not that kid for us. And I'm not going to read these to you, but the idea is that we want to line up what we plan to run in terms of our kind of paired concepts, our run game with our play action, or our formations with our drop back stuff. And it's got to match who we've got. Traditionally at Woodbury, we've got one or two really strong offensive linemen. I've got a kid coming back next year who I think is the best center in the state. He's dominant, but he's going to be around. He's going to have a lot of new kids with him, a lot of 10th and 11th graders. Next time, I think we'll have one other starter coming back. And so with that, if we were going to just, if I wanted us to get in and run people over, we would probably struggle with that. So we want to have a thinner box. We want to have them play with 5 guys in the box, 6 guys in the box, and we need to be able to run the ball when they do that. If they start putting 7 in the box, we need to be able to throw it. And I know that's pretty standard for most people, but then we want to design what we do based on who we have. So, for example, for 2020, I've got 6 kids who got reps in the varsity level at receiver coming back. I didn't lose any senior wide receivers. I had some defensive guys that came over and played receiver sometimes, but I've got a lot of kids who have been there before. So I've got a lot of receivers that are coming back. I don't have a ton of linemen that are coming back. So we're going to need to be able to throw the ball a little bit more. Some questions that we have to consider, I'm not sure about every other school, but I would imagine this is pretty standard, is that we generally, other than the quarterback position, we let our defense take first choice. For 2020, one of the kids that started for us on defense last year might be our quarterback this year, so that'll obviously limit them a little bit more on what they do. And if we need to have two-way players, how do we do that? I for about 4 or 5 years, we got in the process of going through the summer, and we go offense first and then defense, and so it wasn't that big of a deal to have these kids go 2 ways full time, but our numbers are good enough that we don't need to do that. And we would go into the season, and then all of a sudden, your starting fullback, who's also your starting inside linebacker, is gassed after being on the series on defense for 7 or 8 plays, and now you got to go with your backup fullback, but he only got 25% of the reps during the practice week. So we try to really kind of map that out. What's it look like? If we have a two-way guy, what exactly do we want him to do on his, if he's mainly a defensive guy, what exactly do we want him to do on offense? Or if he's an offensive guy, what exactly do we need him to do on defense? And then plan our practices so that we know when we're sharing them, so we know what we're doing. All right. Oh, and I should come back to this. We added a little bit of a just straight up inside veer. It's not really a spread concept. We run it out of the spread, but we hit a playoff game where it's kind of that wet, nasty snow on a grass field. And we were okay enough up front, but I think we lost 13-0 or something. We threw a pick 6 on the last play of the game. So it's a close game, but we couldn't do anything running the ball. And so we want to add something so that if we're playing in sloppy weather in the snow, that we would be okay. Hi, Hannah. Sorry, my daughter walked in. Go see mom. Go see mom. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. So here's how we make people defend the entire field. I'm just going to go for how we build it. We want to be on the top or the bottom of the numbers with our outside receivers, who we're really trying to put in conflict with the outside linebackers. There's a little commercial break for you right there. If, like I said, we want to have a thin box, and we want to put those outside linebackers in conflict, then they have to be able to get to the slot receiver for us. If they can't, we need to be able to throw it out there. When we struggled last year, it was because teams figured out that our release wasn't really quick enough that they could, if we were throwing bubble or we were checking to it, they could cheat the box and still get out there in time to not give them a big play. So that's something that we're working on now. A couple years ago and years before that, we had a real quick release, and so it was pretty effective for us. But they're either in the box or out of the box. That's what we're trying to do with our formations. I've got some screenshots coming up here. So we use a lot of 11 personnel. But with that 11 personnel, our tight end is more of an H-back, and we can move him all over the field. He plays a little bit of traditional tight end, but for the most part, we move him around. To counter that, so we've also got our 10 personnel stuff here where our Y would be our H-back, and we use him as an outside receiver. So our primary ones are Deuce and Trips. Deuce is 2x2, and Trips is 3x1. So what you're looking at here is Deuce, and the rule is if you're on the short side, we're going to stack you up. So on the bottom of the screen here, you see that we're stacked up. On the top, we're a little bit too tight. My outside receiver should be all the way out on the top of the arrow there. It's a 20. Here's another look. The one difference here is my slot receiver on the bottom. He's going to come in motion on this play. This was a game where they weren't sure what to do when we'd run our inside veer, so we'd be spread. Then all of a sudden we'd jump into this, and their D lineman would run upfield, and we'd hit them for some big plays. So the kid standing on the 5 of the 50-yard line here, he's going to come in orbit motion, so that's why he's cheating in. They're also taught, like, if you're going to come in motion, we don't need you to run an extra 10 yards every time. We do some empty. You can see the deuce rules apply here. So we're stacked on the bottom. We're spread out pretty well up top. The inside, or the third receiver on the top, is my running back. Sometimes we'll start like this and motion him in so to give him an empty look. We were playing Eden Prairie here, one of the best teams in the Midwest, and we just wanted to throw a bunch of different formations at them and see how they would handle it. They took one of their inside linebackers and widened them out. So what we really want to do here is we want to run our quarterback. We had a quarterback trap play here that we want to take advantage of. We didn't win this game, but it's something that we liked how it looked. Here's Trips. Again, you can see because we're on the short side here on the bottom. He's at the bottom of the number. At the top, he's at the top of the number. Again, we want to make them have to defend the entire field. Another Trips look from under center. Again, you can see top of the numbers at the top side, bottom of the numbers. I like our spacing a lot here. See, and this is where we have to be able to throw bubble or throw quick, because you can see our slot receiver up top really isn't being defended. They've got a safety walk down here in the box, but he's not. If we could get this out of our hands quickly, and we really stress our receivers can't be on the field if they can't block. and my receivers coaches does an outstanding job of teaching blocking and making that be a point of pride, that for us throwing bubble should be like running stretch, right? It should be a pretty simple completion, get out and get moving. So again, spreading the field makes them have to defend it. And here's our 11 personnel stuff. We'll probably be a little bit heavier 11 personnel next year. Remember I said I had 6 receivers who got significant time coming back. A couple of those kids are bigger, stronger kids, so I think we can play them in more of an H-back, a Y spot. So this is one of my favorites. Like, we call it king because we treat the 3 receivers like they're a crown, and yet you've got a traditional tight end to the backside. We'll run king where we put the tight end to the boundary a decent amount of times because it gives us a pretty strong run strength to the boundary, and then we've got the field stretched or spread out correctly to the field. We've got an option to the field. We run a lot of Q power to the boundary. It's pretty balanced for us. And for us, what we call Rip and Liz set our 2 receiver side in our 11 personnel. So both of these diagrams are Rip because our slot is to the right. For us, the last 2 or 3 years, we have not had our Z and our X switch sides when we're in Rip and Liz. It's just less movement, especially if we don't want to huddle and we want to get up on the ball, even if we're not trying to go fast paced, but we don't want to huddle. It's just having less guys try to cross the field. So they're just going to have them stick there. Sorry about that. And then our H-back will be told where to go. If it's just straight up Rip, he's going to go to the call side. So he's going to go to the right here. So he's 1 by 1 in a 2-point stance. I've got some pictures coming up. We were to call it slot, that's going to send him opposite of the call. So Rip slot will put him on the left. We were in Liz slot, my slot receiver would be on the left, and my H-back would move to the right. Thing I like about the slot deal is here with some simple motion, I can motion my H-back across. For us, that's our yak motion, and end up in Rip, or I can motion my slot across, which we would call shoot, and we would end up in Liz. And so we think that teams, because we run this a lot, will have specific defenses they want to run, or a strong side, weak side, that with a simple motion we can change that right before the ball gets snapped. Okay, so here's our king formation. Our tight end is down in a 3-point stance. Our 3 receivers are off to the right. When I get into our bash power, which is our power read game, this is one of my favorite formations to run it out of, where we've got the stretch option going to the field, and we've got the quarterback can keep it and run Q power underneath it. But we can also run Q power out of this formation here to the boundary, where our tight end would block down, our running back would kick out. Obviously, our backside guard would pull through, and then the quarterback would become the ball carrier. Here's a Liz formation. You see, Liz would tell my 2 receivers to be on the left, and because we didn't say anything else, our H-back is going to go with them. Here's Liz slot, same formation. Again, 2 receivers to the left, but the slot call puts our H-back on opposite of what we call. All right. Here's some 20 personnel stuff where we take our H-back and stick them in the backfield. For us, it depends on who our H-back is. Sometimes this will be a substitution. We'll go with 2 running backs. As we moved on in the season, we had a couple injuries. We had to take our H-back from weeks 1, 2, and 3 and stick them back at guard. So then we had to be kind of creative with our personnel as far as who would be our second back. But basically, this is just offset I or split backs when we're out of gun. So this is just a Rip split. Rip again tells our 2 receivers they're to the right. Split just has the backs being split back. Now, we didn't have a magical rule for our running backs, but whoever my fullback was knew they were the fullback. So if I want to run, like this is tagged here, bash power right. So we're running our power read to the right side of the field. They knew that I wanted my tailback, who's the running back on the top of the screen, the running back to the quarterback's left. They wanted him to be the kid to carry the ball. And they didn't screw this up too much. One time in the 4th quarter against Eastridge, when it was a 1-score game, they decided to switch it up on me and freaked me out, but it worked out okay. Here's Rip strong. Okay, again, strong and short would simply put the fullback either to the call or away from the call. Okay, here's Liz short. So you can see Liz, we've got the 2 receivers up on the left of the formation, and then the fullback is away. And this plays off really well with our zone stuff because we can set our fullback wherever we want, and it's inconsequential to the play because he's going to the backside when we run zone. So right now, if we ran zone left, he would arc it to the bottom of the screen here and be picking up the outside linebacker. If we ran zone right, he's always going to go away, so he could literally cross the formation and go get the outside linebacker on the opposite side. So it lets us not be giving away what we're doing simply because we've got an offset fullback. All right, we also want to make the defense defend the entire field, and one way we do that is through distributing the football. So we've got both inside and outside runs. We have our quick game and our screens, and also our quarterback has got to be a threat. So I've got some clips coming up here that I want to show. I'm hoping that they will show. So here's our Q stretch. What's actually going on here is we want to run stretch to the right here. Hey, but this kid is a super stud. Their safety is off to the right. Obviously this is the field. I'd have been okay numbers wise. We should be okay up here. But for some reason the quarterback didn't. So, and I've got this later in the presentation. But there's a bingo call our quarterback makes here. And rather than move the running back, bingo just switches it and says, "Okay, we're going to run stretch to the left, and the quarterback's going to keep the ball." And he'll move he'll be calling bingo here, and he'll move the H back across because he's going to want to get the leverage over here. Defense doesn't really adjust, and now we've got a +1, and it's pretty good for us. So again, we had stretch called to the field, and I'll just let it play from the start here. 52 was a good player for them, so he may have felt like he was worried about us being able to reach him because you can see he's outside there. And so he just switches it. And everybody up front, all they hear is bingo, so it goes from stretch right to stretch left. He told our H back to slide over. He knows what's going on. Pretty simple call. We always want those calls, especially if we're going to check something in the line, to be very simple where it's not going to confuse our kids. All right, so we got some sound here. And say where to go. We run a little bit of option. Maybe we can play this here. This is one, Eden Prairie is so good that their rules are so well ingrained that we thought we could get this play. So this is a big play for us here. We're on about the 2-yard line, 3-yard line. We worked all week that this was going to be a pitch. We're not truly reading this here. And we just got to get the outside linebacker blocked up. So we bring everybody down. So that was good. I'm not going to play it again because it's loud. But it was just something that, again, out of that formation, we've been running zone earlier in the game, so let us hit it outside. Again, inside, outside. So right now I'm still on the outside stuff. Here's just regular stretch for us. This time we're going to hand it off to a slot in motion. This is a linebacker. We may be one of our second backs. We run a lot of our bash power, our power read games, and sometimes when we do that, we genuinely read the edge defender. And so we like to mirror that with sometimes running this and blocking the edge defender because the linebackers might be slow to pursue to the edge when they're worried about the quarterback coming down the pipe with it. See the outside linebacker ducks right inside there to go to quarterback, and we called stretch instead of power read, and it was good for us. It's also the nice part about these clinics. I can show you the plays that work, not the ones that don't work. So Ohio for us is just outside zone. It's a lot like stretch, except if somebody really wants to run up field, we're just going to take them and run them up field. See 72. Okay, we can't get outside, so we'll just run them up field. Nice big play for us. So something we added, I think this year, maybe 2 years ago, because we started playing teams that, got to be pretty good. They would just literally jump outside and turn stretch back. We'd be trying to fight them, and we'd be losing yards on it this way. If they want to jump outside, we just take them where they try to go and hit it up inside. Sounds pretty easy, but it took this is late in the season, and it took probably 6-7 weeks of work with a really talented running back coach to get our guys to understand how to feel and to see that, not just try to beat the old lineman to the edge. Here's the end zone view of that play. You get to see my center here. He's actually got a shaded, almost like a 2-eye there, but he's definitely one technique. He takes them over real quick, and that helps. My center's pretty legit. But you can kind of see it moves to the edge in almost a scaffolded manner as he tries to get to the edge, and when they take it away, he cuts it up. They take it away, he cuts it up. All right, here we go. This is lead and inside run. Okay, we don't always want to be running our power read. You can almost see there. I can't slow-mo when I've got this in PowerPoint here, but I'll play it again. Is that we've been running Ohio, and we've been running our bash power to the edge here out of this formation. And we'll see the defensive end jumps outside and opens this up to run that lead up and inside. So again, for us, this is about balance. It's about distribution. Sometimes I think our play sheet's got too much because we want to have 3 or 4 outside runs and 5 inside runs, and we kind of if you go through our game film, there's not a lot of plays that we run more than 3 or 4 times. And so I think moving forward, a place for us to get better is say, okay, what are our top 3 or 4 inside runs and our top 3 or 4 outside runs, and maybe try to stick only run about 3 a game and let us kind of build off of that. But trap is always big. I think we always start the year, we don't have trap in, and we realize what a simple high school play it is, especially against teams that want to gamble. It's just a great run here, but even if Brock doesn't make all these kids miss, it's still a 5, 6, 7 yard gain for us. When you get teams that want to come upfield, trap I think is huge. So we put that back in. Here's the inside veer that we run. Again, we put it in to kind of keep people honest. I had a lot of success with it this game. Just pretty much a straight dive. And our quarterback can keep it, and we do have a pitch man going with him. And I bet maybe 10% of the time we even get to that point. A lot of times we'll run trap out of this exact same look. I'll run it one more time. But this is something we added because we play in Minnesota, and spread looks cool when it's August and it's warm out. But then when you get into November games, you got to be able to run this. In 2018, we beat Wayzata at home in the playoffs, and we beat Eastridge coming back in the 4th quarter in overtime. And the primary play we ran was Iowa. In part because of the ball security and the conditions. So here's just our zone. We read the backside end, came too far upfield. The thing I like about zone is it's a pretty consistent play. Our quarterback is to make a read. We can also throw the bubble off of it if we want to. We didn't do that a ton this year. There are times we missed it where we had it, we didn't do it. But the running back here he was my starting quarterback at the start of the year. My stud tailback got hurt. This is week 8. We need to win this game to win the conference championship. And Jake just basically moved over a spot from being quarterback to now he's a running back. And it's pretty smooth. And it didn't take a super dynamic, super experienced running back to do that because Jake stepped in and did a great job. All right, so here's some of our quick game and our screen stuff. This for us has got to be a check. So I pause it here. If they're not covering the slot, we have to be able to throw the ball out here. We don't here. This is just a quick game throw for us here because you can see you can't see the down marker. It's 3rd and about 4. So this is one of our quick game concepts here. We're going to clear out and run a little slice route underneath. But we just as easily could have checked and thrown bubble there. And we actually do later. All right, sorry again about the volume there, but we used to run both a solid screen or like a tunnel screen and this jailbreak type screen. 2 years ago, we got rid of it. They were too similar. The quarterback consistently hitting the guy who would retrace his steps for that tunnel screen on the outside. It just wasn't consistent for us. And so when we run screens, I want it to be about a 90% completion rate, whether it's to our running backs or our bubble screen. And so by us, we switched to a jailbreak. And so that's what I just showed you against Eden Prairie. It's a lot more completable simply because it's a shorter throw and there's more time to adjust the ball coming out of the quarterback's hands. And it still kind of accomplishes the same thing, gets the defense upfield and come in behind him. but that was a change that we made that was pretty good for us, to just have the jailbreak and not the solid. Okay, so this is, I'm going to show this one a couple times here. Good throw, good catch. So this really wasn't what we called. So when our quick game to the 3 receiver side calls something for these guys up here, a combination for them to run. And then on the bottom side, if you're ever backside and 3-by-1 for us, you've got what we call a gift route. A lot of times these can be dummy calls because we know we're handing off and running the ball, but other times they mean something. And so 3-by-1 in the quick game means that whatever he thinks he wants to run here, he can run. And if the quarterback likes that, he's going to take it. He doesn't even need to worry about the combo up top if he likes what he has on the bottom. We try to keep it real simple. He likes the slant here. And I think when this outside linebacker's up creeping a little bit, he thinks he can throw the slant. And so then he doesn't even worry about the concept. Okay. Up top for us, I'm going to let it go one more time. So he gives him the slant signal, which this game was the kind of like hands on your hips, slide it down. Up top, our concept here is simple. We've got one receiver coming to sit down right here, got another receiver going deep, and a third receiver running the bubble or running an arrow. So in this case, you'll be able to see it here as I play it. He's going to run the bubble. We're going to go deep, and he's going to come sit down right here. He would have been a great throw, except that our quarterback liked the gift route, the backside route better. So I try not to nitpick these guys. I don't want the quarterbacks thinking twice. If we're really going to question something, I'll do it on a Saturday morning so that we can then get into the week of practice. Last thing I think any of us want is a quarterback to feel like he's got an open guy and then be hesitant and throw it late because I've questioned every throw he's made so far in the game. So we try to not do that. Here comes another quick game. Just pretty simple. Got a huge cushion up here. So we want to just, again, for us, this is spreading the field. This is getting the ball in the hands of our kickers. You can tell that the release is a little low, but we still got 6 yards, and we will take that. You see we got a nice 7-man box here. We've got to be able to throw the ball. Here's another jailbreak screen we got. And we throw it to the inside guys. We throw it to the outside guys. I'd say my receivers I've got coming back are good athletes. I don't think very many of them have breakaway speed. They're not going to run 4.6s or something like that. So screens are a good way to try to get chunk plays without having to hope that they beat somebody deep. All right, let's keep cruising here. We also like to run our quarterback. I've kind of talked about this a few times here. We run our quarterback lead here. Now, we don't opt this right because we actually send guys the whole, not really what we'd be doing. But it was a decent part of what we did. So that's not going to blow anybody's mind. I don't know anybody's going to come to a clinic just to watch that. But I think we'd all agree that, when you can get 5 yards to carry, you'll take it. I don't know why this wants to show everything twice. Okay. So here's our Q power. I talked about this play. We're in our king formation here. Right now, one thing you'll probably notice is our slot is super deep, and we did this to kind of try to see if we could put them in any type of conflict. Also, our release wasn't super quick to get the ball to the bubble, so we thought if we backed them up and we wanted to throw this, we could. Quite frankly, this is one that we could be throwing here. But Q power to the backside, so we should block down here, kick out if he shows, and then get a solid run to the short side. Boom. Good kick out. And we can run out of 10 personnel so we don't have to have the tight end there. Good kick out. Boom. And I think one thing I should probably highlight here is our running backs have got to be able to block. So the kid who threw the block there, he probably had 20 carries a game for us. He's a heck of a football player, but one of the most underrated things he did was he was a good blocker for us. This is, again, he's going to have a big block here. This is quarterback draw. It's the end of the game. There's about a minute left. We're down by 4, so we have to score a touchdown, but this is first down. And I've got 2 timeouts. I'm willing to run the football here. I don't want to leave any time left on the clock. We're playing Cretin-Durham Hall. We need to get in. So we're just going to run a quarterback draw. Again, we were much better running than throwing, but we could still give a spread look. Good block by the running back. And ended up being the game-winning score. So again, we just want to be variable with how we attack the defense, how we get the ball to our playmakers, how we make them spread the entire field. One way that we do this is that we use an opening script. I know a lot of people do this. There are 2 things we're trying to get out of an opening script. One is there are formation adjustments I want to see. Obviously the team we're playing is well coached. They've had a defensive game plan. They know what they want to do. I want to, what did they adjust to, all week long? So we're going to try to throw a bunch of different formations at them. This has happened where we punt after 3 plays. And so then usually we'll come back. We'll just keep going with the script on our second series. Other series, so for example, I want to run an inside our slaughter Z stretch here on the 3rd play. If it's, 3rd and 13, because we had a penalty or something, or it didn't go well, I might not run that right there. I might need to take a 3rd and 13 play and put it in, but then come back to the openers later if we pick it up or on the next series. But the second thing that this does is it gets the ball spread out. If you look at this, this is just, I literally took a screenshot from one of our games, and the intention here, if you look at the blue part on the bottom, is that we're going to have a number of different kids touch the football or be the primary target at the start of the game. This kind of keeps them invested, not as though that I don't want to give the impression that my kids are all like prima donnas, and if they don't touch the ball, they're not going to be engaged, but they're still 16, 17-year-old kids. And so I think that, having them be critically important in what you do, whether or not it's throwing a block or getting the football, I think keeps them engaged as you kind of get into the start of a game. We like to, and granted, this is from a game where we were up pretty significantly at halftime, and so we got a lot more kids in the game. But even then, when you look at these kids with 1 catch or 1 or 2 carries, most of that came during the when our 1s or 1.5s were out there on the field. So see the number of kids that touched the football. Charlie Wilson was our quarterback in this game. Brock Reinhardt was our running back in the game. So obviously, as expected, they're going to have a majority of the touches, but a number of other kids also touched the football, running it, and then also receiving as well. And again, you can see here, like run to pass, we were a very heavy run. But I think we had, add this up, we had 474 yards of offense. And so I'm not going to, beat ourselves up because we didn't throw as much as we ran. That's just what our identity was this year, and it might be different next year. I think I said earlier that we talked, we kind of got in the Gus Malzahn, Oregon Ducks, hurry up, fly up, have hand signals, get on the ball and go. And it made us a worse football team. And luckily for us, we discovered this in July with the number of mistakes we were making with our first offense against our probably 4th defense. And so with that, we sat down as an offensive staff. We said, we need to be real honest about this. Is it really to our advantage if it's going to limit what we do? We can really only, line up and run the same play, or we line up and run zone. Like if we got to chop most of our offense down, is it really going to help us as much? And no huddle is great, but if you're 3 and out, no huddle, you may have taken up, depending on how much you throw it, anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute and a half, and then your defense is back on the field. So we didn't want to not use tempo, but we really we reframed how we thought about tempo. We want to be able to run multiple formations, getting lots of kids the ball, and we still want to be able to motion and shift. And we still want to ask our quarterbacks to make simple reads. And that list kind of starts to pile up if you aren't careful. And so we really we let it all pile up. I remember we had a huge meeting on the whiteboard, and we probably had at least 100, maybe 125 things on there. And we really cut it down to here's what's most important. We've got timeouts and huddle up and situate. Like when we are presented with a fringe situation, we know what we can do for that as coaches, and we can communicate that in time. We don't need to be up on the ball ready for anything that could ever be thrown at us. Things that we could do were to make sure that we aren't in a bad play, and that we take advantage of glaringly obvious things that the defense gives us, and then still be able to run our stuff. So we don't vary our snap count. We've got a freeze call where we'll line up and we'll go down and say, hey, and see if they jump. But years and years of we're going to go on 1, 2, or 3, and hey, you go on 2, 50% of the time it's your guys jumping off. So we would rather get up on the ball. If we want you to jump, we'll freeze, and then we'll signal a play. So we've got some one-word calls that I'll know, okay, we're gambling a little bit here. If we get up and freeze and they don't jump, we're going to be in a pretty basic play for us. So, and that will change year to year. Maybe that's a quick game throw. Maybe it's zone right or zone left or something simple. But we will have those play code words, which are just really, really straightforward and simple for us. So I really like how we put together our communication system with our kids each year, but I don't think we've got time to really go over that today. But let's say that let's say our code words were for zone was the Minnesota Gophers, right? So Minnesota would be zone left and Gophers would be zone right. Just like if you wrote it down on a sheet of paper, Minnesota would be the word on the left, Gopher would be the word on the right. So if we got up, we said down, said hit, and they didn't jump, our quarterback could just yell, Gopher, Gopher, and everybody knows that that's zone right. Okay, simple, nothing to, and we go. We are about 50-50, but the 50-50 isn't like, okay, this series we're going to huddle up, next series we're going to get on the ball. We might huddle up for 2 or 3 plays, boom, we hit a big 15-yard play, and we're right, and we want to get right up on the ball after that. We've got some single word calls for us. Rodeo means run the exact same play. Bingo for us means that we're going to run the same play. Or, I'm sorry, bingo is the play that's called in the opposite direction. So let's say we ran stretch right for 12 yards, and we want to get on the ball, but we want to run stretch we don't want to run into the boundary, right? So we want to run the opposite way. We would make a rodeo bingo call, and our kids know, okay, we just ran stretch right. Rodeo bingo means same play, opposite direction. Solo for us this last year was a quarterback sneak call. So if we were up under center, especially, let's say we wanted to freeze them, and so we may give a freeze call. And we've all seen it where the defense kind of starts to relax. They realize we were trying to draw them off sides. They kind of, if I see them sit back a little bit, we might just go solo. And as soon as he says solo, he goes hit, and boom, and we run a quarterback sneak. So, that's pretty much how that works. If we are on the ball, we've got some hand signals that we'll use for both our formations and our formations, motions, and the play. Again, I'm not going to call the most complicated play from just getting on the line of scrimmage, right? If I've got an 8-word play, that we're probably going to huddle up for that. Or I love taking the 8-word play and maybe we get it together and we call it, alley-oop or something like that. So the kids know that it's this formation, this shift, this motion, this handoff, whatever it could be, but we put it into a single word. So I don't really like to do that. I'd rather get them in the huddle if it's going to be a heavily worded play. All right. We also asked our quarterback to make his reads, and I do have more film coming up here for this. It's made us be very disciplined in practice. We spend time on quarterback reads every day. I've been blessed to have some athletic managers. The 3 girls I had last year play in hockey, rugby, girls basketball, track and field. So I could be over there with the quarterbacks and our running backs coach and have the 3 girls be the defensive players that we're going to read. And we would just rep our zone, our bash power, our stretch reads. And the idea was we didn't want to have a ton. And a lot of times, so for example, for us, our zone read is the same as our counter read. So for the linemen, they obviously have got different rules if we're running counter versus if we're running zone, but the quarterback is still reading the backside end either way. So we just work on the reading of the backside end in our mesh drill. If he comes up field, we give it. If he closes down, we pull it. So we do this regularly in practice. We do it a lot, a lot more in the summer, obviously. And in August, we might have a 15-minute read drill, and then it'll get down to a 5-minute. But we'll do that every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as we get into the week. I just wanted to kind of become habit for them. In this picture here, this is a stretch read for us here. We're not worried about the number 50 who's playing outside linebacker in this. So as he's coming down, my quarterback's looking at him, who's got the alley, because we run a slant on the backside of our stretch. So he should be able to pull it and throw it because the outside linebacker is chasing it and vacating that alley. So we'll stick in practice, we'll stick one of the managers out there where the flat defenders or where the forced defender should be, or a safety walk down in the box. And on the snap, they'll either run, with the fake or with the give, or they'll kind of stay home, and then we'll take our steps and make the decision based on what we see them do. The biggest thing that I teach in this, and I know every coach that does read does it, is the quarterback's eyes. The footwork has got to kind of become a habit. We talk a lot with young quarterbacks about doing this in their hallway or doing it in their bedroom, or do it when they go down to eat dinner with their families, to work on taking their proper steps, but get their eyes where they should go, right? So if I'm going to step to the right for read, I don't need to look at the running back. I got to get my eyes on where I'm trying to go there. So it's been pretty good for us. I think some of the best things we've done in our run game have been our run game, which involves a read from the quarterback. Also, we've got some pre-snap checks. Again, I don't think this is too much for the quarterback. We teach them to read in the run game. They read in the pass game, obviously. But this is pretty simple. Like, when we line up, I want to look to their left, look to their right, do a quick check for the running back, look to their left, and look to their right. And it's almost like you teach your kids to cross the street. Look both ways, see what's going on. If there's a blown deal, and I've got one in here, where they just don't cover a receiver, we don't want to miss that. That's only going to happen once, maybe once a season, but we don't want to miss that. We also want to make sure our guys are lined up, and I want to make sure they're set. I can't stand penalties where our quarterback's in such a rush that the receiver's not even out to his alignment yet. We're up trying to snap the football. We talk about bingo a lot. They're just things that we want to do. I already showed you where we switched to a Q stretch. Obviously, we want to trap a 3 technique. And then, well, how's the outside linebacker playing? Look at these 2 pictures here. Outside linebacker's down over the slot receiver, which is fine. That's kind of where we want him to be there. This guy can't make a play on a run inside the box unless he's coming back, we've got 5 or 6 yards. The picture on the bottom is the guy's in at the box here, and their safety's just up over top. We have to be able to throw a bubble here, even if I haven't called it, right? The bubble's got to be completed at, like I said, a 90% clip, so it's just like a run play for us. So got some film clips here. Here's a pre-snap check. And we want to run trap here. So we thought we'd get to the short side. We bingoed it to the wide side. So we trap the outside guy. See if I can get a switch here. All right, this is, we finally take advantage, throw the bubble here. They basically want to play our 2 receivers with like 1.5 defenders. As a safety, you can kind of play the box here too. Not the prettiest bubble you've ever seen, but it's a big play for us because they weren't honoring it. We had that more in that game, and we didn't take advantage of it enough. How am I doing over time here?
Doing well. Okay. So continue on with all your stuff that you need to.
Okay. Well, here they don't cover the receiver. You can see here. We just want to throw it and take the touchdown. We didn't see this fast enough because they got a timeout, so we scored, but we didn't score on that play because we didn't see it right. He sees it, but we're all not set, and my receiver won't stop. You see what I mean? Like, just line up. We see it. We'll throw it to you. But he was so excited that he actually caught the attention of the other coaches. We've all been there. I mean, it's the opposite side of the field from you, way down at the goal line. There's a good chance you won't see that unless your box is communicating with you. So we want to pick that up quicker. Oh, my PowerPoint froze up here. Oh, there we go. Oh, here are just some of the reads we asked our quarterbacks to make. If you really look at in our run game, edge, 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 edge. D tackle, this is just in our veer stuff, and then our alley here. Oregon, I've got a couple clips in. We didn't run this the last 2 years with the quarterback I had. This really depends upon if you've got a really good tight end for us. But I've got some clips in it here because I know some people like to see that. Right, here's our zone. Pause this here. So if you look right here, we should be throwing this bubble. I mean, this is the first half of the game against Eden Prairie where I think the score at this point is just 7-0. This could be a score for us. If we throw the ball out here, we've got a blocker and one defender, which could be a big play. So Jake made a great read on keeping it. They tackled the running back, so he kept it on zone. So I'm not going to ding him for this, but he picked up 8-9 yards there. And granted, we will take that, but those are plays that could become big plays for us. This is what we call Oregon. Again, the tight end I had here this year, he went to the University of Minnesota for a couple years. This was simply when we want to run zone, see if we can make this inside linebacker commit. And if he does, we want to just a little pop pass, dump it over his head right here. I think we ran this once this last year. It wasn't a major play for us. We put it in simply because we saw something we liked. But this year, a few years back, Nate was a weapon. And so we probably ran this 2, 3, 4 times a game. There we go. Able to turn the sound off. So boom, linebacker comes down. We just drop it in right behind him. Easy read. Brady Mundahl was our quarterback then. He was a 3-year starter for us. This is the final game of his career. We actually ended up losing this game, but great read there. Pretty simple. We don't have to throw it. He could easily hand it off. Our running back is now a defensive tackle at North Dakota. Big kid. This is when Armstrong had the Barber kid at linebacker who played for the Gophers. So we knew he was a good player and we knew he was aggressive, so we wanted to take advantage of that by running on some Oregon. Here's a great read on stretch. Okay, backside alley you can see is empty right now. So as we fake this, boom, we just want to throw it right behind him in the alley. We talk with our quarterbacks how the alley can be occupied and leave on the snap, and it can also be just like this here, where they're going to show you before the snap where they're doing. The safety walks all the way down here in the box, and we take advantage of it. Computer's freezing up, I think. All right, we'll just keep moving here. Okay, this is probably our best favorite run play. We call it bash power. This is our power read. Our quarterback's going to read the end man on the line of scrimmage. If he collapses, he will hand the ball off, and we're running stretch. We like to say we always have got three guys going to block stretch. So on this play, our H-back or fullback here, he's going to get out on the edge. So we actually got numbers pretty good for the edge here just when you look at this. So if this guy runs out, we can block him. Now we got to make all 3 blocks, but we should be pretty good on the stretch. Our quarterback, he's going to feel like he's reading this guy, but he's not. He's simply going to read this end guy on the line of scrimmage here. He'll leave, and our quarterback will keep the ball coming up through the hole. You see the defensive end leave there and go with the I don't know what's going on. We're going to try it again. You see the defensive end leave with the stretch fake. We actually we're pulling our guard here, and our guard doesn't do what he should do. He runs out there when he doesn't need to. I'm not sure what's going on here, bud. Let's see what we can get one more in. Oh, looks like that's all right. See if I can close some of these other programs. All right. Oh. We were almost at the end there. You want me to try to open it back up, or
it's up to you, Coach. No worries.
All right. Give me 1 second here. We'll see if we can try one more time. There we go. All right. We'll just go. I'll just do the next 2, and we won't get into pass protection.
Okay.
If you're good with that.
Yep, that's fine.
All right. So last couple here. I mean, we talked about our inside veer. It's real simple. And this one, he's got a give read and a pitch read. This is basic stuff. It's just really hard for high school defenses, especially if they're only going to get a taste of it every now and then, to be disciplined and watch you stick the ball in the gut of a running back and not go tackle that kid. When you play against teams like this, you work on tackling everybody. You know, if you're going to play, oh God, I don't know if anybody at 6A runs this the whole time, but when I go down and watch some of the state games and teams are running this, defenses are repped all week to tackle everybody, right? Well, when you only run it 6 snaps a game, it's not, they haven't worked on that as much as you normally would if you're playing a straight veer team. And so Donald does a great job here. This is my kid who could be my starting quarterback this year. I've got 2 kids who I really like both of them. Good fake, and they just can't resist, and then downhill from there. So I got one more for you. Sorry, I like this stuff. I could talk about it for a long time.
It's all good.
Figure out how to turn the volume off. And then there's some straight option. Again, we want to read the end guy. Good fake there. And go. I do have to say this. I've got quarterbacks that love that move. And when that move works early in the game, I don't really want to call option much for the rest of the game because they're going to do that every time. And it usually doesn't work after the first time. So,
right.
All right. What questions do you have? What can I?
Guess the first question that I have from watching the presentation is, so when you're varying your tempo, do you have code words to let the kids know? I mean, I know you talk about your bingo and, you know, all those other kind of words that let kids know where to repeat the play and stuff like that. But are you shouting these things out to your kids on the fly and letting them know, okay, hey, we're going to go tempo for a little bit here, or how does that communicated?
Yeah. So we would just yell rodeo, for example, or we've got a hand signal that we'll use, which is just tell them to get on the ball if we want to get out of being huddled and get on the ball. We don't have to. It's a decent amount of times each year, I should say. Kind of depends on the game. But we might run 2 plays huddled up, and then I just want to get on the ball to see how they react. Or especially like we've got some coaches who will watch substitutions. If they've got a kid, let's say it's our 6th or 7th play of the drive, and they sub out like their top 3 D linemen, then I might want to get on the ball to make them be a little bit less likely to be able to get their dudes back in after a couple of plays off. But yeah, it's usually one-word calls or a hand signal to get on the ball, knowing that we're going to signal it in. And when we signal it, and when we signal in our stuff, if it's not rodeo, like to just run the same play again, we signal it in 2 shifts. We'll signal our formations, and then we don't give them any other information until they're lined up, okay, or they're at least moving to where they want to be lined up. And then once they're in that, then we'll give them the motion and the play, and that's a max. That's for example, this is our signal for deuce, right? Just simple 2. That's all we'll hold up till they're moved to that spot, and then we've got at the most. So if we wanted to run like shoot zone right or something like that, we've got our shoot motion, and then we've got our call for zone right. Okay. So at most they're getting 2 signals at once.
The other question I have is, if you've given quite a considerable amount of freedom and ownership to your quarterback. So, as a play caller and as an offensive coordinator, what kind of training do you have to go through with the quarterback to give him that level of trust to know, hey, I'm going to throw this slant behind here on my read, or perhaps I'm going to bingo this and not get, deked by a defensive coordinator who's just starting one way and then they're going to stem at the last second. How do you get to that relationship of trust?
Well, you make some mistakes sometimes, and we lost the Mounds View this year because they'd shown a blitz, or not because, but one of the things they did well is they showed this blitz for the first 2 weeks that we said, hey, when they jump in and show us this blitz, you're going to walk up and run quarterback sneak. They basically take their linebackers out of the middle of the field, and I know my D1 center can handle the nose, and we'll be off to the races. Well, they showed a different blitz 3 times, all 3 times. I was playing 2 quarterbacks at the time. Both of them checked into this call, and it was for like no gain or 1 yard because they weren't the backers weren't all outside the offensive tackle. Like they were literally standing in B gap, and so they messed it up. So please don't take this as we never get it wrong.
Right.
But I think a couple things is, one, the teaching of the reads when the ball is snapped. That's just like teaching. That's just installing your plays, and so that's just their positional expectation is, I've got to make the read whether I give or I keep. Kind of go from there. As far as the checks at the line, the way that we teach it is that you kind of break it down. There's the pre-snap stuff. Like, what do we really need to be aware of? Obviously, if nobody's covering a receiver, if they've got 7 or 8 in the box and nobody's over top of our slot guy, those are things that we should take advantage of. I don't normally give them like free reign with audible. Like they're not going to switch us from one play to the next. But the nice thing is that they should be able to keep us from getting into a terrible play, right? Like if we've called something and it's the defense is totally waiting for it. Most of our runs have got reads on the backside. We usually got a gift route called that they can get to and keep us out of that. And then when it comes to the checks, like the going to trap the 3 technique, as we're repping that, so we'll go with our individual time in practice, and then we've got a run game group and a pass game group. And I don't know, maybe 50% of the run and pass game is just us running our stuff. And the other 50% is, hey, here's the defensive look that we expect to get, whether it's in coverage or in the front. And if they show us this, then this is what we would check to. But I also try to not make it be a guessing game. Like we're going to call the stuff that we think that we know where they're going to line up to, which gives us the advantage. And so they really need to do is, make sure that if it's totally wrong, that we get out of it.
The last question I got for you is, I know you talked earlier about your 9th and 10th grade games, making those important, playing those under the lights. How low do you go with this offensive install? So the stuff that you expect kids to know on varsity, where do you start installing that in terms of your youth program?
Well, youth-wise and middle school-wise, my biggest concern is getting good coaches who encourage the kids, make it fun. They learn the fundamentals, how to block, how to tackle, up through middle school. And I think our middle school team that won their league this year, I think they ran a version of the double wing, but they used our principles. They got the ball to a number of kids. They were inside and outside, but they weren't really spread. They had 2 tight ends and 2 wing backs, but they philosophically they were there. But I don't demand that they absolutely run our system. One concern I've always had is, if I get just this 1 hour of time with a coach and a youth coach's training, or even at a lower level coach's training at middle school or high school level, and it's not what they're comfortable with, and they try to do it, and they do it, it doesn't work, and then they're going to revert back to something else that maybe not what I want. So they've got a lot of freedom there. As far as in our program, all of our 9 through 12, they all get the same playbook, and then it'll be obviously tweaked a little bit for what we do. So my 10th grade quarterback last year, also my starter back, I have a couple kids that have that out, and maybe they'll both play sometimes for us. But he's the kid who, when he's the varsity dude, we should throw it 40 to 50 times a game. He can really spin it. He's smart. He puts it in nice windows. They're catchable balls. He makes good decisions. He's quick enough that, for an empty personnel or 10 personnel, he can make people miss. So obviously they were much more into our pass game stuff. So if I really want to do a clinic on our quick game, I should pull 10th grade film, because they probably threw it 15, 20 times a game, and he was a machine at it. Our 9th graders, on the other hand, the starting quarterback that they had assumed was coming, the kid who started for them coming up, decided to go to a private school. I love the fact that we beat them this year too with him over there. But the kid who jumped in and played quarterback had never played quarterback before. He'd been a wide receiver. And so they were 95% run. So if you came to the 9th grade game, it'd be over in about an hour because they ran the ball the whole time. Stuck around for the 10th grade game, you might be there till 9:30 because they threw it 50 times. But all the concepts were based in the playbook. And keep in mind, like when they get to us at the JV varsity level, we're going to run the stuff that they're, better at. I'm not going to ask my throwing quarterback to run Q power 15 times. And I'm not going to ask the running kid to spread it out. So they're working from our playbook, but it's not super, super strict.